Hey, I'm Undrai Fizer. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Are you? Are you having a wonderful day today? Has the week been incredible? The week will be what it is. Life is life. Life is a myriad of good things happening, questionable things happening, uncomfortable things happening, but you got to remain comfortable in who you are and what you are. Everything is not an attack. Everything is not a fight against what you believe. Everything is not the devil. It's life being life, and it's us living in a hot state and needing to speak to the sun supervisor. We're getting in we're getting inside of a lot of hot cars and paying bills and going to work, and people are running the freeway and people are cutting us off on the freeway. We're dealing with a lot of human interaction, which is not really the state of the spirit world. It's just the state of everybody's life and what they're committed to, and people trying to get in the way, and people trying to get to where they're going, and sometimes we get caught in the midst of it. But let's just make sure that your mentality and your emotion is yet stable in who you are. And every day is not asking for you to be super. Every day is not asking you to prophesy. Every day is not asking you to change the world. Sometimes you just have to pay the bills. Some days are asking you to just take a rest. Some days are saying sit down in the recliner and chill out. It's hot outside. Every day is not asking you to preach. Every day is not asking you to raise the dead. But some days life is saying chill out. And some days life is saying get back and read and get yourself together. Hey, I want to share something with you while I was out. I went out to get a few tacos and they were delicious. And I was talking to Bridget on the phone, and I had this thought about vision. Sometimes we hear vision at church, and there is a church vision. And then there is a personal vision, a vision of your life. There is a church vision, and a lot of us get involved in our church vision. But have you discovered the vision of your life, of where your life is headed? Because some of you, your personal vision may lead you away from the spiritual institution you are. Your personal vision may lead you from the state that you live in. And your personal vision may lead you away from some of the relationships that you have. Vision is vision. It's not just a plan or a goal. And I just want to explain to those who have the ear to hear me. Everybody may not be wired to hear me. But for those of you who engage with me, let me share something with you. The further you go in your vision, not just your plans, but vision. See, a vision is a destiny that has arrested your entire lifetime. Write that down. There are plans, and then there is destiny. Destiny is a plan of God that's arrested your lifetime and has set the schedule for your life. Destiny sets the priority and the supernatural universal schedule of your life. It determines where you're going to be, when you're going to be, and why you're going to be, and who you're going to be with. When destiny gets involved, it supernaturally schedules your life. It supernaturally takes life and where you live, and it puts it together in a plan. And it creates, according to your emotional maturity and evolution, it creates the movements of how you're going to move about, according to how you perceive things that happen in the atmosphere, based on how you're wired, based on how you think, based on your adaptation to learning, based on your ability to evolve. You begin to respond to predetermined actions, which causes you to get frustrated or happy and move about. It's not God controlling you. It's your wiring responding to the response or the reaction of life itself, which causes you to move in a certain directive based on the recognition of your own wiring. How many of you may say, I know me, but do you know your wiring? How many of you listening to me, have identified your wiring? I'm this way. You know the difference between your personality and how you are wired. How you are wired is based on how you were designed. Your personality is not the design. Sometimes your personality is a result of the experiences that have traumatized your reality. Traumatization don't always mean molestation or something or rape, but it's the pain and traumas and the discomforts that have formed your protectiveness and your defense mechanism. Some of us, our personality was a defense mechanism against disappointment, and we have made a habit out of them because we have remained in the same circle of information, and because we have roots established in the same emotional contentives, our persona remains the same because the same triggers determine what we're doing, because we have established the base in the same things that trigger the defense mechanism. How many of you follow what I'm saying? Oh yeah, so how you are wired and your defense persona are totally different things. And so as we adhere to the voice of God, however we hear God, because my hearing of God is going to be different than your hearing of God. But however you hear God, however you hear him, you may move in a different directive. And God is so incredible. He knows that even if you don't know him, he knows how to use however you know him to be to move you to the perfected. And that's why sometimes it's painful, because the authentic God knows the illusionary God you listen to, and yet he knows how to use the illusion to get you to the place where it's almost like Moses. Moses was raised, he was a Hebrew raised in Egyptian culture. And so when he was in the wilderness and saw the burning bush, he went to it and heard a voice. And the voice told him to take his shoes off. So he knew the culture he was in, but based on where he was, he knew how to adhere to a voice of something unfamiliar, even though it was a bush that was burning. So a lot of us have heard God through our limited perspective of culture, and we've heard God that we thought, and who we thought was God led us to an authentic reality, and we had to let go of the illusion. That's why a lot of us struggle, because we followed an illusion somewhere out there, and then we met the proper power, and we said, well, what was that led me? You see, God is, hey, that's another class, another time. So when I talk about personal vision, I'm gonna let you know a reality of it. Sometimes people who are connected in relationship with you, they could hear you talk about vision, but when your life has been scheduled, you will find out those who can go or not. Sometimes it's not a matter of if they understand vision. Sometimes vision in your life will expose the roots that other people have in their life. And people won't leave where they're rooted. As long as you remain where you are psychologically, and you don't even have to leave physically. You don't really have to leave naturally. Sometimes your mind grows. Sometimes your heart expands. And the more you expand, the more your questions expand. Those of you who are teachers, the more you expand in spirit, the more your tests expand, the more your conversation expands, the more your reality expands. The more your perspective expands. Before you leave, sometimes people can't go with you because your perception has grown. Your angst has grown, your nerves have grown, your questions have grown. People will leave, people will let you know they're not rooted with you based on the questions you ask. Sometimes you don't have to move out of town. Sometimes you don't have to start a business. You don't have to start a ministry to see who's with you. Just keep talking. Your language changes. What you laugh at is different now. Your basic conversation changes. Sometimes you will expose where people are rooted based on how well you have grown psychologically. You don't have to leave your city to grow. Have you grown where you were? Have you seen the difference between how you respond to people and how people respond to you? Because people can't leave where their roots are. See, vision is not just speech. A lot of us can write about vision and talk about vision. But vision is not just a person that's talking about a vision, because a lot of us have a different psychological quotient, and we could hear a lot of talk, but we take a lot of things personal. We are human beings that connect with tone and voice, and we get offended with tone. We are offended with people's gestures. We get angry because if our life has no vision, the only thing we know how to look at is a person. The only thing we have to defend us is our name and our pain. How many of you have a vision on this line? By a show of hands. How many of you on this live have a vision? Not just a goal, not just something you wish to do when you get the money. But when you have a vision, your language expands, your understanding and understanding expands, your persona expands, your discipline expands. And I'm going to tell you something. Everybody can't walk with a committed man. I wrote this earlier. I'm a visionary. I'm not just a person that talk about the future, but I don't know how to teach people to stay behind. I don't know how to teach people to stay behind. Some people will seek the company of visionaries, but they talk to the visionary as though they're still living in the past. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Their conversation with the visionary is where their roots are. And visionary has no time to listen to people who have roots in the past. We don't have time to give ear to people who live in the past. But that's personal to the person who's living in the past, because the person who's living in the past don't know they're living in the past. They just feel you're not listening to me. But visionaries don't have the patience to listen to yesterday. Those who live in yesterday don't call it yesterday. They say, this is where I am. So why be where you are and chase after a visionary who have no ear to hear the past, who has no ear to listen to past roots? Because when you connect to a visionary, it's going to put strain on your roots. Write this down. Following visionaries will put strain on my roots, on my personality, my feelings, my emotion, not just my theological teaching. Because some of us could hear people in ministry that speak words beyond our theological familiarity. But that's one thing. But visionaries will put a strain on your roots. When you're walking with a forerunner, they will put a strain on your roots of familiarity and convenience and humanity. Write that down. Visionaries will put a strain on the roots of my familiarity. And it'll cause a pain and a breaking in your emotion, because the visionary is putting a strain on where you have settled. Some of us are only comfortable with visionaries when they're resting. Some of us are only, how many of you understand? Some of us are only comfortable with visionaries when they're taking a rest. When a visionary is in transition, when a visionary is put on hold, when a visionary is on pause, is when we feel comfortable with them. But once they're off of pause and once they're off of vacation and they move in their mindset, you begin to see a difference in their emotion. Because sometimes we can look at visionaries as moody. And the thing is, they're not moody. They're either resting or sitting back or in pause. And we get accustomed to the stillness of the visionary, but we're angry at the movement of the visionary. And sometimes we'll say things like, and I wrote this on my Twitter, sometimes we'll say, move in silence. You don't have to let everybody know what you're doing. Sometimes we don't want to know what a visionary is doing because we kind of subtly hate them. I don't want to see you consistently persistent. I don't want to see you moving. Don't tell everybody what you're doing. And it's not a matter of telling all your plans. Some people just hate to view your consistency. When you are a procrastinator, you don't want to see a person work consistently. So we'll say, don't always tell everybody what you're doing. Do you have to announce everything you're doing? Because if I'm sick of seeing you move consistently, I don't want you to say it. I don't want you to show it. You understand? I do understand about not revealing everything you're doing. But some people don't want to see you doing. When we get accustomed to the rest of the visionary, we want them to play. We want them to have folly. And visionaries, we laugh and joke, but when it's time to move, we move. When it's time to move, we move. And we don't have time to be bogged down with yesterday. If you're going to walk with a forerunner, don't always bring your yesterdays to them. And why are you still living in yesterday? Why are you following visionaries if your roots are still in yesterday? Have you uprooted yourself yet? How many of you have uprooted yourself from your theological and emotional conveniences? How many of you have uprooted yourself from the convenience of your thinking? How many of you have pulled up the roots? Because as long as you're rooted where you comprehend, why are you trying to tie down the visionary? Because when the visionary has no time to hear your yesterday and you take it personal, like I can't be heard, you're right. They don't want to hear it. They don't have time to do it. They don't have time for you to throw their holiness in their face. Well, if you're a Christian, they don't have time for you to throw holiness in their face. Well, if you're a lover of God, why don't you act like if just because people are lovers of God does not mean they have time to waste on petty. And if you haven't mastered the responsibilities of your life, that is your problem. People don't have time to listen to the mess you make intentionally. And you can't blame people for not lending an ear to messes you made intentionally. You can't make them false and hold them accountable to a holiness when you have a personal emergency. But see, we don't believe in that because it's like I told you I was hurt. You understand what I'm saying? That's right. I wrote that the other day too. You just can't watch out for haters. You got to be discerning of your lovers too. You got to be discerning of the people who love you too. See, that's the reality of vision. Vision don't just show you who your haters are. It shows you how your lovers are loving you and why you're being loved. And everybody loving you are not loving you for the right thing. Everybody loving you may not be loving you because of your vision. They love you because you take time to pause. You understand? You're on the wall. You don't have time to come down. How many of you know the wall that you're on? You remember the scripture, Sanballat. How many of you have recognized the wall that you're on? Because you could say, I'm on the wall. What is the wall you're on? Do you know the wall that you're building? Do you know the wall that you're trying to rebuild and how come you can't come down? And why you don't have time for petty? Why don't you have time for petty? Do you know why you don't have time to listen to every argument? Do you know why you don't have time to listen to petty things? Where are you going? You can't fake a vision. Oh, you could fake a commitment. You could fake an idea, but you can't fake purpose. Am I making sense? Why are you trying to follow a visionary with yesterday's ideas? Why are you trying to follow a forerunner with yesterday's pain? Why are you looking for them? Why are you seeking to get the attention of visionaries? Why do you want the visionary to look back? Jesus said, any man that puts his hand on the plow looking back is not fit for this. Anyone that puts their hand on the plow looking back, Why are you trying to get visionaries to look back at you? Do you have the stamina to keep up with the forerunner? Do you have the endurance to keep up with the forerunner? Because you can't be rooted in the past, and you can't be rooted wherever you're rooted and keep up with the forerunner. You're going to have to uproot yourself. Because wherever you're rooted, you'll feel the pulling when the visionary is moving forth. And I'm not just talking about pastoral visionaries. I'm talking personal visionaries. We are the image of God. And all of us as the image of God has a vision of something we're moving forward to. And sometimes relationships break not because of personality, it's because of roots. Because a person can be severely and soundly rooted in one experience and connect to a forerunner. And the forerunner is not going to walk slowly. And you're going to feel your roots breaking. And you're going to feel the pain of breaking roots. And you're going to feel angry. Well, don't connect to visionaries if you're soundly secure where you are. If you are secure where you are, and if this lane is securely for you, remain in your lane, because if it's for you, it should feed you. If you are soundly secure and fed where you are in your life and in your position, don't get offended at another person's visionary thought and concept, because they're not talking to you. Because whatever it is that's feeding you correctly won't allow your ears or your nose to smell the scent of any of the food. Because wherever you are securely planted, you can hear other visionary topics without taking it personal and destroying yourself and being offended. Because if your truth is true, it will take care of you emotionally without you getting fits over the visionary. But if you're catching fits and feeling judged, check your roots and check where you are. So once again, don't connect with the visionary if you're securely fastened and rooted in your comfort zone of reality. Don't connect with the forerunner if you're not trying to go there, because they're not going to look back. And you can't call them mean and angry because they didn't look back. Jesus told you, if you put your hand on the plow and you look back, you're not fit. He didn't say you wasn't a good person. He just said, for this assignment, you're not fit for it. You are too rooted in your convenience and your base of thought to leave it. I'm Undrai Fizer.
I'm Undrai Fizer. This is Undrai Fizer. Jason Smith. Sorry.